Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the launch of the book titled Philosophy of the Biotechnological Sciences, Transhumanism and Transhumanist Posthumanism, written by chemist and pharmacist Eduardo Della Torre Q.
Bonjour à tous. Bienvenue au lancement du livre intitulé Philosophie des sciences biotechnologiques, Transhumanisme et Posthumanisme transhumaniste, écrit par le chimiste et pharmacien Eduardo Della Torre Q.
Transhumanism is a philosophy that establishes that improvements to the human body can be achieved through a fusion of the human body and technology.
Le transhumanisme est une philosophie qui établit que des améliorations du corps humain peuvent être réalisées grâce à une fusion entre le corps humain et la technologie.
This fusion between the human body and technology can theoretically be achieved through medical devices, using invasive or non-invasive methods, genetically, through CRISPR, Cas9, or any other suitable means. However, this remains theoretical.
Cette fusion entre le corps humain et la technologie peut théoriquement être réalisée grâce à des dispositifs médicaux, utilisant des méthodes invasives ou non invasives, génétiquement, par CRISPR-Cas9, ou par tout autre moyen approprié. Cependant, cela reste théorique.
According to the author of the book, this possibility of fusion is not yet developed because two main aspects need to be addressed. First, what type of modifications can be scientifically designed, and second, whether such modifications would lead to a customized human, whose customization advantage over other humans is determined by their purchasing power. If only a few people can access this type of transcendence, would they, those referred to as enhanced humans, truly be enhanced humans? And would this path lead to an unconventional evolution, a customized evolution, or to dehumanization?
Selon l'auteur du livre, cette possibilité de fusion n'est pas encore développée, car deux aspects principaux doivent être abordés. Premièrement, quel type de modification peut être scientifiquement conçu? Deuxièmement, ces modifications conduiraient-elles à un humain personnalisé, dont l'avantage de personnalisation sur les autres humains serait déterminé par son pouvoir d'achat? Si seulement quelques personnes peuvent accéder à ce type de transcendance, seraient-elles réellement des humains améliorés? Et ce chemin mènerait-il à une évolution non conventionnelle, une évolution personnalisée ou à une déshumanisation?
Now, let's hear what the author has to say.
Maintenant, écoutons ce que l'auteur a à dire.
We are going to talk about transhumanism and transhumanist posthumanism, evolution or dehumanization. Find some Spanish translations in blue. Transhumanism is a philosophy that proposes that human improvement can be achieved through three main pathways, though not limited to this. A fusion of the human body and technology through medical devices, implants, and other suitable means, genetic modifications, medicine, among other methods that legally enhances human performance. Through the primary definition of transhumanism, I can derive specific concepts that allow me to better understand this term. Transhumanism is a philosophy. What is a philosophy? Philosophers might argue that defining philosophy in a single concept contradicts the essence of the word itself. Etymologically, philosophy means love of wisdom, but to me, it represents a deep and structured understanding of certain phenomena developed or interpreted through individuals' minds or actions within a social context. According to transhumanists, where are we? What are we as humans? We are a species in need of improvement. Where are we as a species now? Through technological advances, we are approaching Julian Sorel Huxley's vision of improvement, stated in 1957. Quote, "We will start from new premises. The human species can, if it wishes, transcend itself not only sporadically, an individual here in one way, an individual there in another way, but in its entirety as humanity. We need a name for this new belief. Perhaps transhumanism helps man remains man, but transcending himself, realizing new possibilities of and for his human nature." Where are we going to be in the future? According to transhumanists, the human species will achieve improvement through a fusion with technology. In some ways, posthumanists, whom I refer to as transhuman posthumanists, go even further with this idea. We'll explore why. Is transhumanism an ideology or a philosophy? It might be both. As an ideology, transhumanism advocates for a fusion between humans and technology. As a philosophy, it holds various deeper connotations. Are there connections or disconnections between transhumanism and other disciplines? With theology as a more practical field, transhumanism is not directly connected to theology. Posthumanism, however, pursues the concept of the death of death. Biology. There is a tangible link between transhumanism and biology. In contrast, linking posthumanism with biology often leans more toward fiction than scientific reality. With artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can be a component of transhumanist devices, but it is not essential. We will explore this later. For humanism, however, a humanized machine or AI, or a human mind or body fused with AI exceeding typical human capabilities, is one of its central tenets. I sometimes refer to this concept as posthumanism, but I believe the term posthumanism is more accurate. This helps avoid confusion with humanism in the 21st century, especially from an anthropological perspective, which views posthumanism differently. The aspiration to overcome death, a concept with historical roots, is one of the main pillars of posthumanism. About posthumanism, achieving a complete fusion between AI and humans, whether mind or body, might be possible through the concept of singularity, where a person's mind could be migrated to a machine. While this is not achievable today, it may become feasible in the future, especially in light of advances such as Dr. Shihao Chen's work at Singapore University, MindVis, which uses magnetic resonance technology to convert brainwaves into images. For further details, see MindVis online. On the other hand, the idea of overcoming death remains for now more fantasy than science. One phrase of interest of my book, the first edition of this book, the humanization of AI is the dehumanization of mankind. In my book, without attributing these ideas to myself, I outline four main pillars of transhumanism: reducing the effects of aging, increasing life expectancy, overcoming diseases, enhancing average human capabilities and skills. These pillars of transhumanism are not mandatory as they are tied to individual subjectivity. What I want may not be aligned with others' desires. I offer a definition of what it means to be transhuman, showing that as of now, November 2024, there are no publicly known transhumans and even non-posthumans in the world. Definition of transhuman. A transhuman is an individual free from pathology or physical injury related to their modification who has been biotechnologically modified, whether genetically, via nanotechnology or other suitable means, surgically altered or pharmacologically enhanced, though not limited to these modification types. This modification is done at their will with the goal of exceeding or improving a physical condition, medical, physiological, anatomical, etc., compared to the standard functionality of individuals in their species. The transhuman's modification must serve more than personal or subjective benefit and be useful to at least two individuals from different social backgrounds that were in a similar condition prior to their enhancement. Again, is transhumanism scientifically possible? The path of implementing a so-called transhuman device. The subjectivity of the pre-transhuman, whether patient or client, will shape the specific requirements for the device design. For example, if someone enjoys sports more than reading, they might prioritize performance enhancements in sports over reading skills. Preferences will vary by individual. The transhuman device must be commercially attractive, although it could also receive funding from a patron or philanthropist. But let's be real, money talks. Before designing the device, it should demonstrate profit potential to justify development. Otherwise, it might fail in some sort of design per request of a millionaire or billionaire. For a definition of interest, what is a transhuman device? A device aligned with my definition of being transhuman. Exclusions for a transhuman device: any device or implant intended solely to correct a pathology, syndrome, or disease does not qualify as a transhuman device unless it enables the patient to exceed average human abilities compared to others in their species. Therefore, devices primarily focused on treating pathology are not transhuman. This is the foundational premise before pursuing a transhuman device. Funding, the demographic target, who will use it, and the expectations that the device must enable users to surpass an average condition are all ethical or critical factors. Once this fundamental premise is met, additional issues arise. Timeline for device registration. Imagine a device with simple established components that are already used in other devices and pose no risk or incompatibility with the human body. Product design and prototype development 1 to 5 years depending on the device, materials, and group of scientific designers. Preclinical testing approximately 2 to 3 years. Clinical testing 3 to 5 years. Regulatory submissions and approval. FDA in the US 1 to 3 years, depending on region and device classification. Patent issuance 5 years. Total estimated time for registration 19 to 21 years approximately. Time to registration post-patent expiration. Once the device patent expires and other US manufacturers begin production, how long will it take for these manufacturers to obtain registration? In a challenging scenario, approximately 4 years. Selling the device in Ecuador. If a new company other than the inventor wishes to sell this device in Ecuador, the device must undergo clinical studies at an institution certified by a high surveillance agency. Total estimated time to sell the device in Ecuador 2 to 5 years. Overall estimated time for a transhuman device to go from US invention to Ecuadorian market approximately 25 to 30 years. Once again, is transhumanism scientifically possible? The path of genetic modification potentially using CRISPR-Cas9. Currently, CRISPR-Cas9 technology is prohibited for use in germline cells, sperm, or egg cells due to ethical and safety concerns. However, in a controversial experiment, Chinese scientist He Jiankui used CRISPR-Cas9 to modify the genes of embryos via in vitro fertilization, resulting in the birth of twin girls, Lulu and Nana, and a third child from another couple. The goal was to make the kids resistant to HIV. This experiment was widely condemned by the global scientific community for ethical breaches and safety risks, particularly because it involved germline editing with potential unintended effects for future generations. It's worth noting that HIV from parent to child can already be prevented if the father is HIV positive through methods such as sperm washing during in vitro fertilization or maintaining an undetectable viral load via antiretroviral therapy. These approaches prevent HIV transmission without needing CRISPR-Cas9 technology. The key challenge of the genetic pathway: suppose a genetic modification, possibly through CRISPR-Cas9, was somehow developed, in the future discovered or approved, and this could enhance human capabilities across the American continent without targeting any specific disease or pathology. Estimated time for development and approval. Initial development 3 to 5 years for research and conceptualizing genetic modification for population-wide enhancements. Preclinical testing 3 to 5 years for safety and efficacy tests on cells and animals. Clinical trials 8 to 10 years. Phase 1, 2 years, safety in humans. Phase 2, 2 to 3 years, effectiveness. Phase 3, 4 to 5 years, long-term impact. Regulatory review 3 to 5 years for thorough assessment by regulatory agencies covering safety, ethical, and societal impacts. Post-approval monitoring 10 to 20 years for long-term studies on genetic stability, societal effects, and generational impact. Total estimated timeline 40 to 53 years. About the book. The intro of the book says, "For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding." Book of Proverbs, chapter 2, verse 6, New American Standard Bible, 1995. Acknowledgements. To the entire peer review system that has shaped journal publications into what they are today, a paper-published academy. Before reading, this book is a commentary and critique on how slow and restrictive the academic peer review system can be. We often expect peer reviews to be thoughtful and rigorous, however, all too often the feedback from academic reviewers barely rises above the level of a troll's comment on social network. The critique begins with the multiple rejections I received from several academic journals when trying to publish an article on the philosophy of biotechnological sciences. Traditionally, philosophy, recognized as part of human science or humanity, has maintained a historical divide from the exact sciences in last centuries, especially in relation to the health science, medicine, pharmacy, biochemistry, etc. This book aims to bridge that gap by connecting health sciences with philosophy through a revisionist critique of transhumanism. Transhumanism is a philosophical movement that seeks to enhance the human condition according to its advocates, through mechanisms such as genetic engineering and surgical interventions, though not limited to these methods. The central premise I propose is transhumanism is still in its beta phase will, once it becomes mainstream, amount to nothing more than an economically exclusive modification of the human being. It will result in a customized human whose perceived improvements are entirely subjective. In theory, transhumanism should strive to improve human health by reducing diseases, mitigate the effects of aging that impair performance, and extend human life expectancy. However, achieving these goals will not be accessible to everyone, particularly not to those in developing countries. Any other modifications associated with transhumanism will likewise be subjective. Even the three core goals mentioned are shaped by personal preferences, whether someone wishes to pursue them or not. On the other hand, the transhumanist posthumanism, which aims to elevate humans to a superior state, raises a fundamental question: is this the Übermensch Nietzsche envisioned, or something similar? If transhumanism is still in development, what can be said of a perfect version that achieves the ultimate goal of the death of death? Example, the transhumanist posthumanism. Who will have access to this transhumanism in the near future? A person in a Latin American country living on less than $3 a day, or only those with sufficient financial resources to afford such enhancements? Isn't this idea of a customized human tailored to individual preferences and conveniences a form of dehumanization in itself? If achieving an optimal and ideal transhumanism is so difficult and subjective, isn't it overly utopian, idealistic, or even fanciful to believe that we could reach the Overman or Übermensch, who defined trait is having conquered death? This reflection constitutes my critique of academia and the peer review system. The unwillingness of journals to allow professionals from fields such as humanities, philosophy, or exact sciences to address these issues demonstrates a significant limitation in the current academic landscape. What I present here defines the philosophy of biotechnological sciences and leads me to conclude. We no longer live in a peer-reviewed academy, we have become a pay-to-publish academy. This book is brought to you by Chevalier Champollion Publishing, Publications and Company, Public Point O, in Spanish, Publico or Public.0. To the readers of this book, to all the people who have purchased this little book, I thank you and hope you to find it enjoyable. Normally, under my name, I have written several academic articles as an editor or compiler of information. However, this is the first time I can directly express my way of thinking. Hoping not to cause any further controversy, I want to make it clear that what is wonderful about the philosophy of biotechnological sciences is that everything is being written as technology advances. Ignoring the reality of all the technological advancements that could affect our humanity is something that we must avoid, as there is no better time than now to ask ourselves from an academic perspective how transhumanism and posthumanism may affect us as individuals and as a society. I hope you enjoy the reading presented as a discussion or rhetoric from my perspective as the author of this text. You can see how extensive the topic is based on a comment of no more than a paragraph made by the academic reviewers, who, although not very specific or accurate, at least took the time to comment on that paper that I am still trying to publish. Epilogue. This book provides a structured reflection on transhumanism, integrating perspectives from philosophy, ethics, science, and biotechnology. The initial question of whether transhumanism is a philosophy or an ideology is an important starting point. From a philosophical standpoint. Transhumanism seeks to answer fundamental questions about human nature, the meaning of enhancement, and transcendence, core inquiries of philosophy. However, as an ideology, transhumanism becomes a system of values advocating for the use of technology to improve humanity, promoting a project of transformation and progress. The ambiguity of this duality is philosophy significant, and it invites us to consider whether transhumanism is merely a set of pro-technology values and ideology, or a genuine search for understanding of human nature and limitations, a philosophy. The answer depends on whether proponents and critics of transhumanism are truly seeking to comprehend humanity or to transform it. The author's definition of transhumanism emphasizes improvement, longevity, and the overcoming of human limitations. This perspective is typically anthropocentric, as it places human at the center of biotechnological goals. Such anthropocentrism has faced criticism in philosophy for limiting ethical and epistemic concerns to human interests, potentially disregarding broader impacts on the environment and other life forms. Critically, transhumanism could be seen as an extension of the modern tendency to prioritize human values over nature, promoting a divide between human and natural. This invites reflection on whether transhumanism, by seeking to improve humanity, is reinforcing a model of domination over nature that has already been questioned by contemporary philosophy, particularly in ecological and post-humanist discourses. The book also draws a critical distinction between devices and treatments that correct pathologies and those that enable users to exceed average human capabilities. This differentiation is central to transhumanism, as it focuses on enhancement rather than mere treatment. The ethical dimension of this distinction has been explored by philosophers like Habermas and Cass, who caution that altering human nature may fundamentally shift how we perceive ourselves and our values. By setting boundaries between what is considered normal and enhanced, ethical concerns about equality and justice arise. What does it mean to possess ability abilities above average in a society that values equality of opportunity? There is also an ontological issue. If an enhancement transforms us beyond typical human limits, do we remain human in an essential sense? This raises a philosophical question about identity, what constitutes human nature, and how do we define it. The emphasis on subjectivity in the design of transhuman devices, which must be customizable according to individual preferences, introduce philosophical questions about autonomy and authenticity. The ability to decide what to improve or change in oneself is closely related to Kantian autonomy, where individuals act according to their values and decisions rather than external impositions. However, such subjectivity could also conflict with principles of equality and justice. If transhuman devices are customized and funded privately or philanthropically, access to these enhancements may be dependent on socioeconomic factors exacerbating existing inequalities. Philosophically, this prompts the question, is it ethical to allow certain individuals to enhance their abilities based on their desires and resources while others do not have the same access? The proposed timeline, 33 to 43 years for a complete transhuman device or treatment, reveals the practical barriers transhumanism faces in becoming a reality. From a philosophical perspective, this delay can be interpreted as a fundamental challenge to the idea of linear progress inherent to transhumanism. The transhumanism project here faces the reality of contingency and the limitations of applied science. The philosophy of science has long questioned whether progress is inevitable or linear. Thinkers like Kohn and Feyerabend have shown some scientific paradigms do not always advance toward a specific end, but instead depend on social and epistemological shifts. This delay, along with the regulatory barriers, suggests that transhumanism may be more an aspirational or ideological narrative than an imminent scientific possibility. The text concludes pragmatically, transhumanism could be scientifically possible if certain ethical and practical obstacles are overcome. From a philosophical point of view, this conclusion reflects transhumanism as an ideal rather than a current reality. This raises the question of whether the transhumanist vision is ultimately a technological utopia. In this sense, transhumanism shares much with past utopian projects, projecting an idealized future vision dependent on overcoming human limitations. Philosophy reflecting on utopias and their risks prompts us whether these ideals are destined to be realized or serve merely as aspirations that can never be fully achieved. It also suggests the possibility that in seeking to improve human nature, transhumanism may alter fundamental aspects of our identity and ethical relationship with the world. The book offers a philosophical reflection on transhumanism with the philosophy of biotechnological sciences, exploring the tension between the ideal of enhancing humanity and the ethical, social, and scientific limits it faces. Concepts of enhancement, identity, and autonomy and progress intertwine in a debate that goes beyond applied science and touch on profound questions about the essence and destiny of humanity. About the book. This book, written by me, offers a rigorous philosophical and ethical exploration of transhumanism and posthumanism in the realm of biotechnological advancement. This book examines the deep questions surrounding the human pursuit of enhancement through technology, weighing whether such advancements represent genuine progress or if they risk eroding essential aspects of human identity and dignity. I challenge the idealized promise of transhumanism by critically examining how subjective desires and financial exclusivity influences in goals. I also raise fundamental questions about whether biotechnological improvements will genuinely be accessible to all or whether they will economically marginalize the majority, creating a new dimension of inequality. This analysis introduce also the transhumanist posthumanism, a vision of an advanced state of human existence beyond mortality, reminiscent of Nietzsche's Übermensch. while questioning whether such a vision is achievable or simply a utopian aspiration. Furthermore, the book critiques the academic peer review process, which the author argues can stifle innovation and limit open discourse, especially in a complex interdisciplinary topic like transhumanism. I urge readers to reconsider both the ethical responsibilities and societal impacts of merging human biology and technology, emphasizing the importance of maintaining equity and moral accountability in the face of rapid technological change. This book is both a philosophical inquiry to the critical assessment of social and ethical dimensions of biotechnology, inviting readers to reflect deeply on the potential futures of humanity and the true cost of pursuing human enhancement. About me, Eduardo de la Torre Q is a Latin American chemist and pharmacist born in Ecuador. He has written several academic articles, a physics book with other colleagues, and various texts on drug formulation and product development under my second name, Francisco de la Torre. Professionally, I have worked as a specialist in pharmaceutical validation of equipment, processes, and control areas in a transnational pharmaceutical company in Ecuador. I have also worked as a quality control analyst of raw materials in a mass consumption food factory, as a product development assistant and manufacturing supervisor in the Ecuadorian pharmaceutical manufacturing industry. And last but not least, as a quality in a warehouse and importer of medicines and medical devices, and as a regulatory affairs coordinator specializing in obtaining sanitary registration for generic drugs, dietary supplements, medical devices, and medical equipment in the same company. In recent years, I have developed an interest in philosophy and enjoy reading books on philology, etymology, Kabbalah, exegesis, biblical commentaries on the New Testament, and Jewish or Talmudic commentaries of the Tanakh, Torah, and texts ranging from Jean-François Champollion to Carl Josias von Bunsen in the field of Near Eastern studies. This book is available online at Barnes & Noble through print on demand. Go to Barnes & Noble, www.barnesandnoble.com. Here is the book, here is the price, here is the overview, the product details, and this has been the online book launch as part of the Salon dans la Ville of the Montreal Book Fair 2024. There was the announcement of the event. And thank you so much. Do you have any questions? Please kindly write me to publicationsandcompany@gmail.com. publicationsandcompany@gmail.com. Thank you very much.